Hi, you're very welcome to this session, Excel Snacks. And today's session is on pivot tables. I would basically plan, it's going to be short and sweet like a donkey's gallop. So the plan would be maybe that I'm going to spend maybe 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes going through pivot tables, giving you a flavor of it. And then we'll leave maybe 5 to 10 minutes for Q&A at the end, right? But that would be as Baldrick would say, the cunning plan. All right. So I'm just going to kick off with, let's say, an overview of our pivot tables. Okay. And then we're going to do kind of a little bit of a demo as well. Okay. Let me just share my screen here now. Okay. So this 30-minute session is about pivot tables, just an overview of what they can do for you. Right. And basically, it's about summarizing and charting your data kind of fast. Right. A little bit about me for those of you who do not know me. Some of you know me, some of you don't know me, which is fine. All right. I'm also known as the Excel Lady. That's the name other people gave me. That's not the name I picked. I live in the west of Ireland, where today it is a very beautiful day indeed. Daffodils out and spring, etc. I have a website called excellady.com. I'm a freelance trainer. This is what I do. I've written some books on Excel, your Excel Survival Kit, that one there, gone into the second edition. My most recent book called Hate Excel, Learn to Love the Software That Can Transform Your Confidence and Career, is an Amazon bestseller, so still lurking around in the Windows for Beginners sector. Okay, but it was a bestseller in spreadsheets when it came out. I also have several books of the place called Bookboon as well, right? And I love movies, I love puns, I love crime fiction. If you're on my newsletter list, you know that I'm kind of every week probably talking about a detective story I've seen, etc. Right. Married for a long time. We have one son, he's a software engineer. And please do, if you're not connected with me already, please do connect with me on LinkedIn. So what I plan to cover in this session, and like I said, it's going to be, through the 20 minutes, a little bit on it. I'm going to cover a little bit on clean data, a little bit more about that. I have a data set I've prepared earlier. We're going to have a quick look at recommended pivot tables, analyze data. We're going to look at doing it from scratch. I'm going to add a chart and a slicer. And the other thing I want to tell you about as well is that I'm actually doing a kind of a deeper dive into pivot tables, hopefully early next month, a 90-minute workshop. And I'm going to have a lot of bonus materials, etc. with that. So I'll be sending on some details about that as well. So you can see for yourself. It's something you want to do a deeper dive into. Okay, so pivot table allows you to summarize large data sets in seconds. That's the big thing about it. I think it's like a Rubik's Cube. It allows you to look at your data from a number of different angles. Okay, so you can say I want to see it grouped by salesperson or region. I want to see it by specialty or data consultant. So a number of ways to do it. The history it's actually quite old, well, in IT terms. It was invented in 1986 by a guy called Pito Salas, who was working for Lotus at the time. And Lotus was possibly the first spreadsheet. All right. It's been superseded pretty quickly by Excel, but it was from Lotus 1, 2, 3 for people like us, like me, long in the tooth in the Excel world, green or orange, take your pick. It became a feature in Excel in 1993. And I had a bit of a fangirl moment when I was on LinkedIn a while back, and he's actually still alive. And I tagged him, and he actually commented on a thing I'd done about pivot tables. So, which was quite exciting. What would you use it for? Accountants, view your data by cost center, nominal ledger code date. View your data by specialty consultant date. Salespeople, view your data by salesperson, region, product category. And HR, you could summarize your hires by gender, education level, and age. So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can view your data using a pivot table. Okay, this is what a pivot table does with data. And what I want to do just say is terms and conditions apply. I always like to mention that. And a bit about clean data. This means data must be normalized, separate complete record and row for each and every entry. Headings in one cell. no blank rows or columns, and remove totals, particularly relevant for counting dumps. And there's no such thing as ditto in data. Every line must be complete. And if you need to do it regularly, there's a thing called Power Query. Now, in the course, in the workshop that I plan to do, part of the backup materials, is that I'm going to be showing you how to clean a data set using Excel techniques, and also how to clean a data set using Power Query. All right, because let's face it, we, you know, data Disneyland has not been invented yet, where you get all your data clean and in the shape you want it. Okay, so that's another part of it. Examples of clean data, headings in one cell, every entry complete entry, no blank rows or columns, no totals. And your data should be granular. So, like for example, things like name and addresses, try and have it broken down a little bit. Okay. As I like to say, pivot tables, you know, that episode of Friends where he's yelling pivot with the couch, pivot, pivot, pivot. And then Chandler, of course, God rest his soul, says, you know, shut up, shut up, shut up. Okay, as I like to say, that's not what we're doing. Okay, so what we're going to start with, we're going to start with a clean data set. And I want to kind of introduce you to two things about pivot tables. This presupposes you have a clean data set, which I have in this case. And this thing called insert recommended pivot tables. And then you have home analyze data, okay, which is like where you can ask questions of your data, assuming you have Office 365. So I just want to give you a demo on this first. All right, so let me just stop the share for a second and then just show you the data set. Now, I will be sending you on this data set afterwards, just so you know, so you can play around with it as required and have some instructions on it. Okay, bless you. All right, let me share my screen here now. Okay, so I've got a data set here. Control arrow down, about 70, you know, quite a small one. And I want to do two things. I'm going to go convert it to a table, insert, and then table. And I click OK. There we go. And then I'm just going to go to insert and then recommended pivot tables. And then see, for example, here, it's going to look at the data and say, okay, this is what I think you need. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at, let's say, sum of units on order and click OK. And it puts this onto a separate sheet. Okay, that's that one. The other one I have, and I think this is a really good one for those of you who have data sets, and what you can do is kind of explore your data sets on it. Okay. So if I come up here, for example, and I go to, let's say, analyze data up here. All right. Okay, lovely. And what it will do is that it will look at my data set and it will kind of give me what it thinks it should be. All right. And I might just say, okay, what is the category with highest stock value? And if you're going to use this analyzed data, use the headings from your data set. So let's see what happens. You see that it tells me it's seafood. Okay, now I could say category with lowest stock value. All right, and it says produce. All right, so that's kind of like one of the first things we can do, let's say, with our, you know, with our data set. All right, now what I want to look at next, not sure for a second. I just want to say hello to everybody who's just joined us. You're very welcome. The session is being recorded, so please bear that in mind. Okay, now what I want to look at is if you want to do a pivot table from scratch, like let's have a look at the format of that. So let me just choose this one here. Just share my screen. Okay, so let's say we're doing it from scratch. Okay, apparently scratch comes from the phase where people used to run races and they used to scratch the starting line. Apparently that's where the phrase comes from. So the basic structure of your pivot table, and what we're going to look at in this afternoon session is we're going to look at some summarizing of the data. We're going to add a slicer and just maybe a couple of slicers and a chart as well. Okay. So the top half of your pivot table field is going to be your headings. Okay. And just remember again, you need to get your headings in one cell. And then the bottom half, you can see divided into a quadrant. The values part of it would be whatever it is you want calculated. Okay, so for example, if you wanted to count people, you'd probably put something like, staff ID or people's names or email addresses in there. The columns will be whatever headings you want going left to right. And if you think of this, that this kind of mirrors the structure of a spreadsheet in the sense that columns are the things that go A to Z and beyond at the top, left to right. That's also mirrors in the columns there. That's going to be the data that goes from left to right. And then on the left-hand side, you got your rows. Again, that kind of mirrors the spreadsheet. So the headings down the left-hand side, and whatever you want to go on the left-hand side, you just plonk it into your rows. And sometimes you only want to see some of the data, so you put that into your filters. Okay, put that into your filter results. Now, if you're planning your pivot table, okay, if you want to really know what goes where, some of the things you have, and again, I'll include this as well in your, send it on to you afterwards, from the Contextures blog, from Microsoft. And if you look at File and New, you'll see that often Excel has a pivot table tutorial in there as well. And if you're using AI, it's about giving it a prompt about what you want and ask for detailed step-by-step instructions. And one of the things I will be doing later in the year is putting together a course around how you'd use AI with Excel, because I think it has huge scope to really help you with your Excel tasks. Okay, so let's just look at our demo now on this one. Okay, and I'm just going to show you how you'd actually do your pivot table. All right, and let me just go back to this one. I'm keeping an eye on the time all the time, lovely people. So let me just share my screen here now. Okay. So I've got my data set here. And let's say what I want to do is I basically want to see there it's made up of different products. Like I've got categories there. I've got unit price. I've got stock value. Okay. So let's see, I want to see a list of the stock values by category, but I want to be able to kind of alternate, let's say, between ones that are discontinued, see there, and not. And I also want to add a chart as well. So I'll click up here into my table design. And I just go across here to summarize a pivot table. Now, when you do this, I've named this as a table, and you can either put it on a new worksheet or an existing worksheet. The default is a new worksheet, and I generally think kind of if your data set is a bit wide, it's kind of easier maybe to put it on a new worksheet. So I'm just going to click OK. So here's my structure over here. So I'm going to drag my category down into my rows. I'm going to drag my stock value into my, let's say, values here. And I'm going to leave that as is. Now I'm going to sort it. And I'm just going to, let's say, sort, right click and sort, largest to smallest. And I'm going to add a chart to that, okay? Or I'm going to add a slicer to that. Now, a couple of ways to add a slicer. You can come over here to discontinued. And I could just do a right click and see there it says add a slicer. Okay. And there's my true and false. And I want to format that a little bit. So I just come up here to slicer. And I'm just going to make it 2 columns, which is over here. So it's nice and tidy. And I'm just going to plonk it up here. So I'm just going to use my Control and plus to make myself a bit of space up here. And just give it a resize again. Now I want to add a chart to this. So again, click back into this one. Just go up to my pivot table, analyze. And then I click on pivot chart. Now, just so you know, when you do a a pivot table. There's quite a few charts down here, down the side here, all right? But not all of them are going to be available to you, okay? So for example, if I go here to tree map, see it tells me I can't create with a pivot table, right? So what you have to do is you have to put like in an interim step with a thing called get pivot data, which I kind of go into again in the kind of like the workshop that I'll be covering. But this one, I'd say I'm going to go with a nice bar chart. Click OK. I'm just going to do a little tidy up on it. I don't want this one. And I'm just going to call it, let's say, analysis of categories by stock value. And it's one of these kind of weird things in Excel, even though this data is sorted, you know, from largest to smallest in here, when it goes into the chart, it kind of does the opposite. So one way around that is if you click on this axis and just do a right click and then just go down to format axis. Over here, there's an option that says categories in reverse order. So I can just click on that. You can see then it kind of puts it around a little bit on it. If you don't like the buttons on it, some people, I don't mind them, but some people don't like them. You just come up here to format. So go to design, big part in design. Nope. Analyze. And then see that it says field buttons. And let's say then I can just go hide all because some people just don't like them. Right. And then what I can do is I can use my slicer. Like say, I just want to see the ones that are kind of like discontinued. All right, the ones that are not discontinued. And it gives me that. And then to clear it, I just come up to this one here and it clears it, right? Now, I'm just going to create one more pivot chart, all right, pivot table. Let's go back to my products. And let's say I'm going to do it by, I'm going to do it by supplier. And I'll do this kind of a similar thing again. I'm going to do supplier and I'm going to do the stock value. So back to the data, to my table design, summarize a pivot table, new worksheet. Okay, so I'm just going to put supplier down here. Let's say stock value down here. And then if I wanted to analyze it further, right click, sort, largest to smallest. Okay. Now, sometimes you only want to see the top 10. So if I just come over here to my row labels and then click on this, see the value filters, and I can pick out the top 10. Now it says top 10, but I could have, you know, I could have the bottom 10 or top 20. You could change the number there, but I'm just going to go for the top 10 and then click OK. And just show you one or two other little things here while we're at it. Right click. I could summarize my values by, let's say, count, or the count of the items in that. I could go to, let's say, summarize values by, let's say, the average, do the average one. And then if I want to put it back, let's say by sum. And let's say, for example, I want to, I've got a list of suppliers here. And if I change one of the suppliers, let's say I'm going to change one of these here to, let's say, Foods of Ireland. And then I come back into my this one. So to update this, I just need to do a right click. Do this one here, right click and refresh. There we go. Right. Now it's not in the top 10, so I'll do a little bit of troubleshooting here. And I'm just going to clear this one, clear the filter. And to see down here, it says Foods of Ireland. There's the one I just put into it. And just the last thing I'm just going to do is just to format these numbers, right click, value field settings, number format. And I do it this way because I know that all the numbers will be done. I just click on currency. I'm going to leave it on euro and then click OK. And then click OK. And they're all formatted automatically. Okay. Okay, sure, we might as well just throw in one more chart. It looks like it shows a nice little column chart there. And just don't need the total on it. Delete on it as well. Like quite often when you're doing these ones, I think because of the way the data is, I would probably maybe just change it to a bar chart because I think that usually makes it easier to read. Okay. So let's say I go to my design, change chart type, and I just change it to a bar chart. I think it's one of the big, you know, one of kind of like if you have longer names, and then people are all going, it's a way to read it in that way. And then right click on this one, format axis, and then just do my categories in reverse order because I think it looks tidier when the larger numbers are on top. All right. Okie dokie. All right. I'm just going to stop that there for a second, and you will be getting this file. I can send you on the completed version as well. Any quick questions or comments?
I am.
Hi, James. How are you?
I'm very well, and you? I'm just trying to put my camera on here because.
Do that.
There we go. One thing I struggle with, two things I struggle with on pivot tables. One, playing with dates.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the second thing is, the way you did that pivot chart there.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can make those bars multicolored? Because they're easier on the eye to me if I can see them as, blue, green, red, whatever, rather than straight color down.
I say, like, have you tried like anything like the gradients or anything like that? Like the fills and the gradients.
I've got in and messed with them, but I've made a complete Horlicks of it, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let me just show you something here then. Like, because it's all the same data, you're probably going to, there's going to be limitations on it. But let me just show you something here that I just kind of noticed. Like when it comes to the dates when you say you have problems with the dates.
No, that's what I'm looking for.
That's what you're looking for. Okay, so what I did there was, all right, is and just so undo it again. I just
vary
clicked here.
Colors by point.
Yeah, vary colors by point then.
Okay.
All right.
And that's over in the format.
So if you if you just click on the data bars, click on them all, okay?
Right.
And then if you just do a right click and then see where it says I went here to fill.
Okay.
So I went there to fill and that's where I changed it.
Right. Okay. Brilliant.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
And what was your other question about the dates, was it?
Yeah, I get completely lost when the way you can have 3 years data and you then go in and sometimes when you push the date over into the value field, sometimes it comes up with all the dates, sometimes it comes up with months, sometimes it comes up with years, and I don't know. I know it's somewhere in Pivot Table Analyze. It's where you go to sort it. For the life of me, I don't know where.
Yeah, I suppose what I would probably do is, let me just stop the share for a second. I just want to see if I have a data set with dates in it. What I'd probably do is I'd do the grouping thing. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, right. So that's up on the left, isn't it? On the Pivot Table Analyze on the ribbon, the group by.
Yeah, let me just kind of let me just add this. I have a data set with dates in it. So I'm just gonna add it into it. Like you have to be careful with dates in Excel with pivot tables because let me just close for a second. Because like if you need to summarize by dates and you have any blank dates, you are gonna kind of does throw the toys out of the pram of it. All right. So if I go all right.
But like if I had a list of the sales for last year and I had all the dates for all the invoices.
Yeah.
Then and I want to look at say the first quarter and the second quarter because I want to put a little chart or a pivot chart together on that.
Okay,
That's
so let
where
me
I
just,
would like
yeah.
that one there now is lovely because you've got a whole load of dates.
Yeah, okay, so let me just do that one. So what I'd probably do is, let's say I've got my total here, see there in
Yeah.
the values,
Yeah.
and let's say go to order date here. I'm going
Yeah.
to put the order date probably into the columns, right? And let's say I'm going to
Okay.
put my category down here into this one, right? So when you bring the data in, like with the newer version, Seamus, it does actually group it into, see over there, it's automatically stacked it into order date, months, quarters,
All
and
right.
years.
Okay.
Yeah. But if it doesn't do that, you need to come up here to dates, up to your dates, and then you go to group. See there it says group,
Ah, right. Okay.
and that'll be the
And
place
then you
then.
have the option.
Yeah, exactly. Then you can
Okay.
decide, do I want to see it by years or want to see it by months? Do I want, like if I go here and I say I just want to see it by years, see there, I click on it and it just gives me the data grouped into years.
Okay. But if I have Office 365, which I have,
Yeah,
then it should do it automatically, is
it
what you're
should
saying. Okay.
it should do it automatically. Yeah, it should do it
Okay.
automatically. Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, it should do it automatically because yeah, it, you know, in older versions it didn't. You had to do that group thing, but in the last couple of versions, yes, it does. That stacks up the dates automatically. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it. And
No
thank you for
problem.
the last 26 minutes.
Okay, that's fine. Happy to help, as they say. Anybody else got any other questions? Or anything that I want to ask or anything like that? All right. Okay, lovely people. I will get Zita to organize to send you the recording. I'll send you details about the workshop, which I am planning to run hopefully early next month. What I'm going to cover in the workshop is going to be, there's going to be 90 minutes on pivot tables. I love a bit of homework, so I'll be giving you homework, your mission, should you choose to accept it, etc., etc. And I then will have a 30-minute Q&A session afterwards. And I'll also be putting in a lot of additional material into the workshop around, you know, cleaning up your data, which is things I was forgotten about, things like get pivot data, etc., etc. All right. All right. I'll send you on all that, lovely people. And thank you again for coming along, whether it was your lunchtime, your morning, your evening. I appreciate it. It's nice to see the faces, or not the faces, as your choice may be. Nice to see nice to have the presence here. And I'd like to say thank you. All right.
Thanks a million, Anne.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Mind yourself.
Thanks.
Have a good
Bye
day.
bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.